In the first ever New York show in the NWO Nitro boom period, WCW coming from WWF territory sold out the Nassau Coliseum pretty much the minute tickets were put on sale, with a different atmosphere in the building in front of a hot crowd with a mixture of longtime fans who watched and grew up with many of the WCW top names during the 80s peak, and the new crowd created during the current Monday Night Wars boom. Randy Savage was out first to a huge ovation, saying that he missed the place and it's good to be back in New York, challenging Dallas Page to a cage match in the main event tonight as a test for him before approving him joining the Wolfpack. With the contract situation still not resolved, Ric Flair filed a counter-lawsuit against WCW 4 days ago on June 11, asking to be released from his pre-agreement to start negotiations to go to the WWF. Flair's original contract expired on February 15, but with him still legally tied to the company after signing a letter of agreement on November 11. With Raw in the lead for the past 2 weeks, talks were going in the company on potentially reaching an agreement with Flair to return on July 6 for the big show from the Georgia Dome and reform the Horsemen. With that going on behind the scenes, WCW teased the scenario for the first time on TV, with Mongo making his return after months out, and Benoit saying that he's not here for any NWO group but for the Horsemen, holding up 4 fingers to a massive reaction as the crowd erupted in Flair chants. Roddy Piper was out next a few minutes from the top of the hour to another massive ovation, saying that he respects Savage as he's the only guy as crazy as he is, putting himself as the referee in the Savage-Page cage match for the main event. With Savage, Piper and Hogan still main eventing to peak business, a key point on the night was that WCW not only sold out the building in minutes, but broke the Nassau Coliseum all-time gate record set 12 years ago at WrestleMania 2, with all 3 headlining on both cards. Piper's promo ended just as Raw was going on the air, with the 9 p.m. quarter featuring a tag match of High Voltage against NWO Japan going 10 minutes, with the segment ending up being a complete mismatch as at the same time on the USA Network Raw had most of the top drawing performers in the company all out in the ring. With the Hell in a Cell hanging above the ring and after a few weeks off TV, Sable was back to open Raw, introducing Vince McMahon with him responsible for bringing her back. Vince gave Sable a prepared statement from him to read to the crowd regarding last week's Kane and Mankind's attack on Austin, bringing him to the ring to walk Sable out and go after McMahon. Austin chased McMahon, with Vince putting the heat on Undertaker to stir things up between Austin and Taker in the start of the build to the Summerslam main event, saying that Taker set up Austin by intentionally getting arrested on the way to taking his title. Undertaker was out next to respond to McMahon telling Austin that he challenged him to a match but did it face to face, telling Vince that he made a career manipulating people but it will never work on him, as Paul Bearer came out with Kane and Mankind to congratulate Taker on his performance last week in setting up Austin, closing the over 19-minute segment with him challenging Austin and Taker to a tag team Hell in a Cell match for the main event. With WCW practically conceding the quarter with their opening tag match against the usually big star power Raw opening segment, Raw opened huge with a 5 rating, starting with a big 1.7 rating points margin from WCW's 3.3. The quarter was not only Raw's highest opening audience, but the 3rd highest rated opposed segment in show history, which was also the peak of the night. After the unusual opening 15 minutes, things went back to a more normal viewing pattern, with WCW not only bouncing back big but also taking the lead, as the Wolfpack came out for a promo jumping over 900,000 viewers to a 4.1 rating. Nash introduced Sting to a big reaction after going over Giant last night to bring the tag belts to the Wolfpack. Sting hyped the reveal of his tag partner and looked at the crowd saying that this is definitely Wolfpack territory, with every shot of the New York crowd full of red and black shirts, as Wolfpack and Goldberg merchandise continues to be mega hot, with WCW doing over $13 per head in merchandise on the night, a huge figure up there with almost any big TV or pay-per-view event in history. Rock was back in the ring after a week out healing from knee injury, with the Rock vs. Vader match going 5 minutes with Rock advancing in the King of the Ring tournament 2 weeks from the pay-per-view. The second promoted King of the Ring match will have Triple H vs. X-Pac, with DX doing several skits to hype it as match of the year, with Waltman and Hunter making inside references on their days on the road with the Clique a few years back. WCW stayed in the lead after another turnover of viewers from Raw, peaking in the third quarter drawing a 4.6 rating, as Curt Hennig and Rick Rude came out cutting a promo on Goldberg to hype the upcoming Goldberg vs. Hennig match, coming a day after Goldberg got his 100th victory going over Conan, with Hennig and Rude turning heel to join NWO Hollywood post-match. As the crowd was chanting for Goldberg throughout the show, WCW announced that he will not appear tonight due to him having a family emergency. With the peak quarter also featuring a parking lot brawl with Jericho and Malenko in the follow-up to them brawling to the street last night. Giant continued with the shoot-smocking gimmick, working with a cigarette throughout the entire match, while minutes later, after huge reactions to Savage and Piper earlier, Hollywood Hogan came out to a big babyface pop from the New York crowd. Hogan welcomed the crowd to the house that he built in New York City, taking a shot at Nash and most of the rest of the roster, telling them that there's a pecking order, as when he was selling out the Garden they were all sitting in front of the TV ripping their shirts pretending to be him. With the NBA Finals ending yesterday with Rodman and Malone having an altercation on the court in the most-watched game in NBA history, Hogan went over to challenge Page and Malone to officially start the build-up to Bash at the Beach. Hogan made more major headlines during the week after word got out from the company on him officially signing a new contract with the company, after months of speculation on him potentially returning to the WWF that saw him working almost as a free agent during the last few months while negotiations were going on. Hogan officially signed a 4-year contract that runs through May 28, 2002 on June 2nd, making it the biggest money contract in industry history, with big shares and bonuses on all pay-per-view and TV appearances, along with significant percentages of the gates and merchandise. The second hour opened with both shows putting on hyped matches. WCW had Sting picking Nash as his tag partner defending the tag belts against Harlem Heat, while Raw had the first DX vs. DX match, which was also Sean Waltman's first match back in over 9 months, with X-Pac vs. Triple H going 5 minutes. With the comedic DX skits hyping the match throughout the hour, someone laying down to let the other advance was almost expected, but they ended up working a legit match, ending with Rock cutting a promo from the crowd distracting both while Owen attacked X-Pac, as both shows picked up viewers, with Raw taking the lead after an hour with a 4.4 to 4.3 rating margin. Sting and Nash vs. Harlem Heat went 12 minutes, with Sting pinning Stevie Ray to retain the belts, with WCW next having Eric Bischoff interviewing Scott Steiner, talking about his new Hollywood career after shooting with Hogan on the set of the Shadow Warriors movie a few weeks back, while hyping the brother vs. brother feud when Rick returns from injury. Next on Raw was Al Snow confronting Jerry Lawler to continue the angle of the last few weeks with him trying to get a meeting with Vince McMahon, along with a tag match of Owen Hart and Mark Henry against Ken Shamrock and Dan Severn going 5 minutes to end with a big brawl between the factions. With Raw taking place from San Antonio, Texas, Shawn Michaels was backstage at a WWF show for the first time since WrestleMania 14. Reportedly also meeting Vince McMahon for the first time since then after a tense month leading up to the show with them barely communicating. WCW took 2 commercial breaks just before the main event with the quarter featuring the Piper Savage and Paige entrances with the Michael Buffer introduction, while at the same time Raw had the first ever Tag Team Royal Rumble, with 10 teams in the match for a shot at the tag belts. Both companies had cage matches promoted for the main event, coincidentally or not, with the possibility of one finding out about the plan of the other show during the week. Randy Savage vs. Dallas Page with Piper as referee went 12 minutes, jumping over 400,000 viewers to a 4.4 rating in the main event, ending up with all 3 turning on each other until NWO Hollywood ran in to raise the cage and take them out to bring out the Wolfpack for the save, including Randy Savage doing an injury angle to write him off TV for the rest of the year, with him working with torn knee ligaments for months and delaying the surgery due to the peaking business with him as one of the biggest driving forces, as WCW loses one of its top drawing players in crucial timing with competition closer than ever. Raw's main event quarter saw the second half of the Rumble tag match, with Kane and Mankind going over to stay in the ring with the Hell in a Cell structure coming down. Austin came out first with Undertaker stalling to tease the idea of him double-crossing Austin, before coming out through the ring to lock himself in the cage with Paul Bearer, doing a major blade job while Austin and Mankind were brawling outside and Kane climbed to the top of the cage to try to get in from the roof, closing the show with Austin climbing up with him and Kane brawling on top in one of the wildest endings in Raw history. Raw's main event segment jumped to a 4.6 rating, edging out the 4.4 for Nitro's cage match, while after going a few minutes past the top of the hour almost every week in the last month, viewers started to catch on as Raw jumped big in the 3 unopposed minutes to a 5.9 rating, with the show overall drawing a 4.3 to WCW's 4 to take the winning streak to 3 weeks in a row.